Hi, my name is Travis, and today I'll be taking you behind the scenes of an editorial shoot that I shot at a studio in Toronto with my model Derek Bassey. In this video, I'll be taking you through the process of how I got my photos published in 1723 magazine, all the way from conceptualization to actually publishing these photos. Typically, with every photo shoot, it involves 3 stages: pre-production, production, and post-processing. Before we actually get into the nitty-gritty of the photo shoot itself, I just wanted to preface by saying something that I feel like I've learned throughout my creative processes, taking photos of models and other creative professionals in the industry. And it's just the idea of spontaneity in photo shooting when it comes down to creating something that you really enjoy doing. Normally, whenever I'm doing a shoot and I'm in the flow of the creative process, I get overtaken with what I'm doing almost always in the shoot itself. And I find that whenever I'm shooting, I get my best work out of a sense of spontaneity. When it comes down to my photo shoots, I get so involved in the moment, and sometimes sparks just fly, and I just sort of pursue that spark when I'm in the creative process and doing my photo shoots. And I feel like that spark that I chase, that comes from spontaneity, births creative and really dynamic images in my photo shoots. I'm not saying that I'm the best and most dynamic photographer in the world by no stretch of the imagination, but I find that the spontaneity is the birthplace of creativity when I'm doing my photo shoots. I just want to bear that in mind, because when I'm talk about the shoot itself, there are moments that I do things that are a little spontaneous that I never planned in the pre-production stages of the photo shoot that actually make the shoot more dynamic and impactful and getting the images that I actually received from the photo shoot. Yeah, I just want to warp our mind around that concept of a spontaneity when we're producing images and producing work that we enjoy doing, and just not being so tied down to a schedule, not being so tied down to an idea or a mood board, but just letting that spontaneity and that spark just move through you when you're photographing models or whatever your subject matter is, and just forget about all the minor things that we're tied down by and just being uninhibited with the stuff that we're creating. With that being said, let's get into the actual process of this shoot. Starting with pre-production. Pre-production stages typically involved planning of the photo shoot. That comes down to gathering all the information that you need in order for the shoot to happen successfully and efficiently. Part of the pre-production stages of this shoot in particular involved getting the model, planning the location, getting the wardrobe, and having our mood board set together for the shoot to actually take place and happen as efficiently and effective as possible. Our 2 main ideas were nude and gel. They're pretty much a conglomerate of different ideas that came forth, but this is just what happened when we actually went on set and we took all the photos that we were planning to get. Another important part of the pre-production process was actually booking the studio. So I did find a studio at 207 in Toronto. I've always had this studio saved in my saved catalog on Instagram, and I've always wanted to visit it. But we did get a white plain ceramic wall for this photo shoot, and I believe we did make it work. Before getting into the booking stage of the photo shoot, I had Derek Bassey sign a model contract released form, and we signed this. Everything was cool, and we were all ready to set for the actual day of the photo shoot, which brings us directly into production. So we started setting up the cameras, we started setting up the lights, and setting everything up in place where we wanted stuff to be. We got our clothes out, we got everything ironed and prepared and ready for the actual shoot to take place. I like to break down production into 2 different stages. We have technical and non-technical production. The non-technical production has to do with sort of the preparation on the day of the shoot for the stuff to take place effectively throughout the whole process. The non-technical side would involve more of like the makeup artist, the fashion stylist, an assistant, and any creative direction that we need for the day on set that are not necessarily relating to gear specifically. So the non-technical side of this photo shoot, I had Derek Bassey take out all the clothes that he was going to wear. I was not familiar with what he was going to be wearing before the shoot happened. The only precursor that we had towards the shoot happening in terms of wardrobe was just for the mood board that we had initially planned. There are also times where I had to lint roll some of Derek's clothes because they did have a little fur on them, and I just had to grab a lint roller and just roll out some of the minor imperfections in the clothing so I don't have to Photoshop all those things out in post-processing. Typically, if I can get it done correctly on production, I won't want to have to deal with that after the shoot ends, so I just try to get it done right away as well. More on the technical side of things, my camera that I had before buying my R6, we didn't have real tethering with the Micro Four Thirds system that I had for my Lumix camera. So getting the R6 was the first time on this photo shoot that I actually tried testing out tethering, and color me impressed because I've always had the idea in my mind to do tethering, but I never had the opportunity to fully express how much I actually wanted to do it myself. So this was an amazing opportunity. I did the tethering, and I've been doing it since the shoot has happened, and I'm literally in love with the idea of just having everyone on set see the photos and correct them, and we can just work together to get the results that we're expecting. I tethered directly to capture one directly from my camera. I had my laptop set up on the table where Derek could also see the photos as we were shooting. And as the shoot was progressing, I also had to correct a few things on the technical side as well. We're walking into a studio, it's a different new environment than what my camera white balance is set to, so I also have to manually adjust my white balance for the first set of photos that we were getting. As the shoot progressed, I was changing my lighting around a little bit more as I switched from natural white color to more of like a gel tones as the shoot progressed, so I did have to correct my white balance like then and again throughout the whole shoot itself. I typically start out my shoots by having the model hold a white balance card right above their face, and I just correct my white balance that way before the shoot begins. So I do all my white balance adjustments using the gray card that I had Derek hold up, and I set my white balance and I was ready to go for the actual shoot to begin. And that brings us to the commencement of the actual photo shoot beginning. Our first look, Derek wore an all black outfit, and I thought that was really nice, and I just wanted to start with something plain so that we can get just the vibe and the mood going for the photo shoot, so that when it actually started, we were a little bit more comfortable with each other, and we can actually get the photos that we wanted to get. Typically, this is how I begin most of my photo shoots. I start out with something very simple, clean cut looks, and as the shoot progressed, we get into something a little bit more dynamic, you got it, and then we just go ahead and create the images that we actually want to get for the photo shoot. So I had Derek in all black. He was standing and sitting in some of these looks. I really like the fact that he had his shirt tucked into the pants. He was just moving around, he was standing, he was doing a lot of creative poses. I just had to do my job with capturing all the looks and the movements that he was making with his body that I thought were really creative, and I got a few images that I thought were really interesting. As we're transitioning more into the new side of the photo shoot, I told Derek to take the top off, and we just had to get some pictures of him shirtless in the same black pants as well, and we just had different movements and different poses, which I thought did make for interesting photos as well. At this point in the photo shoot is where I felt like I had a little bit more technical problem solving to combat. There were times where I felt like the light was a little bit too flat for the photos that I wanted to get. So I had to bring in a few flags in order to make the images a little bit more contrasty and not so flat as like a commercial photo shoot. So I took my lights back a little bit and I brought in a flag, and I just had to put it on the side of Derek's face just so we can get a little bit more darkness and a little more contrasting tones to the photos, which I thought did make for interesting photos as well. A part of the problem that I had to solve with getting these more contrasty look is that the studio had a V-flat which was broken. I brought it in first and I was trying to fix it as best as I could to have the light going all the way down his body on the side to have that more contrast coming in. But the V-flat was of course broken, and I just had to take it away and use the flag solely for this look, which I thought were fine as well, and we got the images that I thought were pretty good. So in this part of the photo shoot, I believe we were getting a little bit more comfortable with each other, which is why I typically like to start out with minor and basic shots first, so that we're building up the tension a little bit, we're getting comfortable with each other, so that when it comes times to get shirtless or get nude, then the model feels a little bit more comfortable, and we don't just jump into the shoot right away and I'd be like, take your clothes off. So I like to build up that progression with the shoot, and I feel like this is the point where we're pretty much halfway through our studio time, and I felt like, yes, we are ready to get into what we actually came here to do. So Derek had to get dressed with just his underwear for this set of photos that we were going to get, and I'll start out by showing you the photos first, and then I'll get more into the technical side as well. So here are those images. So for these looks in particular, I wanted to get a little bit more darker background, something a little bit more contrasty, just to highlight Derek's features a little bit more and pronounce those body parts more than they would typically on a plain white background. So in this situation, I had to switch my lighting around from the big giant softbox to a minor single strip box and just a backlighting just to get Derek's separation from the background itself. So I had the strip box positioned directly on the left while I had Derek standing right beside that softbox, because I just wanted that line to be directly perpendicular to his features, and I also wanted to separate him from the background by using another light behind him. So I had those two lights set up mainly for this set of photos, and then I had to turn one off, and then we got a little bit more darker, and I had Derek sitting directly on the ground. He started moving around a little bit, doing his thing. It's like perfect model that you can ask for. Makes your job so much more easier just having someone that knows what they're doing and you don't have to instruct them too much. And while there was a little bit of instruction involved, because I had to have him standing and moving around directly into the position to where the lights are situated, I did feel like Derek did an amazing job, which I applaud for being such a fantastic model as well. So our next look for the photo shoot was more of a gel light play. Derek was already nude and I wanted to have those features highlighted a little bit more with color. We had a few black and white photos, we had a few photos that were plain. Now I just wanted to play a little bit more with the color that we had in studios. So I brought out my gels for my strobe, brought out some gels for the strip box, and we just had to play around with the colors that we had for this set of photos as well, and here they are. So that was it for all the looks that we wanted to create for this photo shoot, but it did not end there. We had a little bit of time left over, which I thought I could have utilized to get a few more images that I thought were really interesting. Derek is also a painter, so I had an idea of having Derek paint like on my camera lens, but not really, to have an image of him directly painting into the camera. So I grabbed this glass that I had in my camera bag, and I had Derek with grab a brush. I had some acrylic paint for some reason, and I just grabbed it. This is part of the spontaneity that I mentioned in the beginning of the video, where I feel like my mind just rushes a little bit because I wanted to get something a little bit more unique to Derek, because this was more of a collaborative effort and I wanted to have him get something out of the photo shoot that I thought would resemble and connect directly with him. So I grabbed the acrylic paints, I put it on a piece of plate that I found in the studio, and I grabbed a brush that I had in my bag as well, and I had Derek painting on the glass as if he was painting on my lens, which I thought created some cool images. And another spontaneous thing that I thought of while I was moving around the studio, we were pretty much finished with the photo shoot and we were wrapping up and we were almost ready to go. And I noticed the mirror that we have for the makeup artist desk situated right at the right at the back of the studio. And I saw Derek passed in it, and I had my camera in my hand and I got these images of Derek standing by the mirror. And there we have it. The painting and the Hollywood mirror style looking images were definitely not planned on our mood board at all, but part of the spontaneity in creating stuff and birthing creative ideas came forth in that photo shoot, and we just couldn't let it go. And we got really dynamic images for that photo shoot, and I thought we really did a good job. So now that the shoot had ended, it was time for post-processing. You've seen all the photos that we had captured for this photo shoot. Now it's time for post-production. I edited all my images using mainly Capture One and Photoshop, which I thought was pretty good, and we got the images that we wanted. So we know we wanted to have these photos published, so we had to crop them 8x5x11 for most of the photos, and we also post on Instagram, so we had to prepare those crop sizes for social media as well. So we had two different sets of images that were exported in different file sizes and different aspect ratios, just for the photo shoot and for web publishing as well. I had to get some of the photos on my website that you can see behind me right now, so I had to crop them as how I wanted them to look on my website as well. There's a lot of cropping that was involved in post-processing, and part of the disadvantage of having a camera like the R6 is that it is 20 megapixels, and even though it is 20 megapixels and we were cropping quite a bit, we did lose a little bit of quality, but I still feel like the images retained that level of resolution that I felt like wasn't that much of a problem at all. So I had sent all the photos to 1723 magazine, and I was waiting and waiting and waiting for the magazine to get back to us to have the photos published. It was after a month after sending the images to the magazine that we actually got approved and got the photos published. So here are the publication copies as well. Again, I used the R6 on this shoot for the very first time, and I did the best that I could. I was pretty impressed with some of the features of the camera, such as the autofocus itself. So that was it for my shoot. If you learned anything from this video, do drop it down in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you feel about the video. Tell me what you think of the images, and if you have any questions, do drop them down. I'll be sure to respond to every comment as best as I can, and I will get back to you as soon as possible, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.